Hey, I got a question. How many times do we hear about stories of things that just sound so fucked up and we can't wrap our head around, is this real? Well, I talk about community all the time. I think it's important we really take that to heart today. You know what I'm saying? So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, y'all. It's the Leon Block. I'm John Tell, your kinfolk with the info. I have a really heavy topic to talk about tonight, but it's always important to talk about this kind of stuff. This is what we're here for. So I wanna introduce y'all to two grandparents that have a story they want to share with y'all in hopes that you either have some knowledge or have some skills behind you that can really help with us getting some justice in this case. So I'd like to introduce y'all to the two grandparents who are going to be speaking with us. I don't want to state any names to protect them in their identity in case someone wants to reach out to them personally. But grandparents, welcome to the Leon Block. Go ahead and say hi to everybody.
Thank you so much for having us first and foremost. And hello, everybody.
Hi, how you doing, everybody?
I really appreciate y'all coming on. And I really want to tell y'all how brave I think y'all are, but at the same time, like, y'all doing what any loving grandparents would do. And hearing what y'all have been through, I think that y'all some dope ass grandparents, and I would like.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Seriously, y'all are doing what anybody would do, but it doesn't take away. It doesn't change the fact that I still can sympathize and understand how stressful it can be, and hence, one of the reasons why we're here, of course. So if y'all don't mind, y'all can go ahead and just get into it. Let us know whatever you feel like divulging to the world.
Yes. At this point, I just want to shed light on the county and state that we're speaking, in the state of Pennsylvania that we're speaking of, and Lancaster County, that is.
Right.
This whole debacle has taken place here in Lancaster County, and it involves a grandchild of the age of just 6 years old who has been victimized by abuse, physical abuse. And this has happened since we had to give him up to his mom after the police was called on us. But prior to that, upon him being born and his arrival on this earth, we've had him for the first 2 years.
And how old is he now?
He's 6 years old now.
Okay.
And the father, who's our son, was in Philadelphia. He had just moved to Philadelphia to take on a job to better himself in construction, and he joined the union and basically got a restart. And while doing so, the mother found out that he was there, and in my opinion, it was just a vengeful move. She called the police. She never had a problem with us being with him up until this point, but when she found out where our son had moved and what he was doing, she decided to call the police, and we had to give him back. Upon giving him back, there's been instances throughout the years from that point moving forward to the present.
From 2017.
From 2017, where we would pick him up, and we would notice that he had bruises and nicks here and there. And we would always ask him. At one point, he was too young to be as vocal as he is now. But with him coming over to our house when we would go pick him up, and the fact that we structured him at a very young age to tell the truth and not be afraid to walk in his truth and become it.
Yes.
He was at this point in time at 6 years old, ready and able to speak his truth fearlessly.
Yes.
So we would notice that he had these marks, bruises, and we would always take pictures as well as trying connecting the dots. And we would actually even call CYS, Children of Youth and Youth Services. And when we would report these instances to them, what they would do typically, because that's what it's become, is shut the case down shortly after. They would close it.
But first, they would send her a letter. They would send her a letter stating that they're going to come to the house to check up on the kids. And typically, you get a letter, you're going to do your best and making sure everything is up to par. And that's what she would do. And they would close the case. They kept closing the case after we opened up numerous amount of cases with children and youth, showing them pictures, providing pictures of neglect, providing pictures of abuse. Daycares will give us calls crying about how she would treat him when she would drop him off, talking about, here, take him, he's a fucking annoying kid and stuff like that. And show me pictures of diapers, dirty diapers, poor kid going to the daycare.
Full of feces.
Yes, full of feces and everything. And they will call us. And we have pictures and everything that we would share with children and youth. We would even question her regarding these marks. And she would give us excuses.
Most of the time, she made it seem like it was something that he did to hurt himself.
Correct. And it got to the point that they kept just children and youth just kept closing the cases till moving forward. Now, about 7 months ago, we had went to go drop our grandkids off. And when she opened the door, all you smelled was marijuana. I told her, we're dropping the kids off. Why would you have the house smelling like this? And she would get rude, close doors. I ended up calling the police. The police ended up opening up a case with children and youth. And he also sent over a statement regarding the situation. And children and youth closed the case as well. Now, 2021, October 30th, we went to go pick up I went to go pick up my grandson. I was with my girlfriend, and I had to do a drive-by because every time my grandson gets hurt, she withholds him. She doesn't allow us to see him until those cuts and bruises are practically healed.
Yeah.
So October 30th, I did a drive-by, and she was on her way out. I had blocked her. She pulled into the parking lot. I parked. When I went to go park to get out, she was about to drive off. I jumped in front of the car and I asked her, why is she doing what she's doing? Here at the time, my grandson jumps out of the car and I see that he has marks on his face. And I asked him, Xavier, what happened to your name? What happened to your face? And she intervened and was like, oh, he hit himself with the hanger. And he also has a bruise on his buttocks. Well, when me and my grandson was getting in the car, my grandson turns around and says that his mom was telling a lie. And I asked him what had happened. And he said that her baby's father had hit him with the hanger across the face and was beating him with the belt.
Oh my goodness.
When I got home with my grandson, I explained it to my fiance what had happened. And when we took him, we always take the kids a shower because they always come smelling. So when I went to take him a shower, I noticed he had bruises from the buttocks all the way down to his knees. We immediately took pictures, and we immediately held a family conference with our son. We went to our son's
hold on.
house.
So where's your son? So you're y'all two the grandparents, and you're like the mediator between both the families, right?
Correct.
Like the daughter.
Yes.
The daughter the mother of your grandson, and then your son is the father of your grandson.
Correct.
And
we're from paternity side.
Got you. And your son lives in Philly?
Correct.
Right. So, and then the mother, where does she live?
She lives in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
And so that's why it's easier for you to mediate and have and to also, I'm guessing, over the course of these years progressing, and as any grandparents would, you made sure that you could assess things better and have this is your son, you're gonna have your son's back and make sure
Correct.
that your grandkids are taken care of, but also keeping on top of things, because as parents, a lot of times, especially young parents, are doing so much.
Exactly.
It's harder to keep track. So as grandparents, I'm sure y'all wanted to keep note of all this, as anybody would. I just wanted to clear that up for anybody listening, and just tuning in to the Leon Block. Remember, we're streaming on all services, and we go worldwide on Wave Crave Radio. But I just wanted people to understand back context of what's going on here.
Correct. So we drove to Philly, and as soon as my son saw his son's face, he immediately asked him what happened. And he turned around and he stated that his mother's boyfriend hit him across the face with a hanger and was also beating him with the belt. We immediately took him to the hospital. Which the hospital stated, yes, this is a child abuse case. They called children and youth. They informed them. They informed us that we would have to come back to Lancaster, Pennsylvania to file a police report regarding the situation. We immediately drove back to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and went to the police district in Lampeter East. Yes, yeah. Lampeter East Police District. We went there and we filed the report. The initial cop took the statement, took pictures of our grandson, and said that they're going to be handing over this case to the detectives because the boyfriend also carries a gun with him.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and brings it to the house at all times when he goes to visit the mother. They filed the report. Yes, they filed the report. The children and youth came to our house that following Monday to make sure that Xavier was okay. And when she came here, she spoke to my son. He gave her verbal consent, being as though I'm the mediator. Mm-hmm. He gave her consent, and I was dealing with children and youth up to today. Children and youth spoke to my grandson. He told her everything that had happened. And
he told them himself.
He told she said that she had to ask him questions. Was we okay with that? And my son said absolutely. So she did question him, and he did tell her everything that has been happening. Okay. We also showed her pictures, which she documented everything and had told us that she's going to have to report this to her supervisor to see what other measurements they need to take. In the meantime, we call his school because we didn't want him, failing or missing any school due to this situation.
Right. So you're trying to get him. You were trying to get him enrolled here, like re-enrolled here.
No. He was still enrolled.
He was still in school. However, the school was giving us the runaround throughout the duration of the 10-day window that they have before they withdraw a student.
Okay.
They were making things difficult in terms of questions that we would present to them. They would, give us the runaround like, okay, we'll give you a call back. It would take 2 or 3 days before we got a call back for the initial question or concern or whatever it is that we were trying to update with them with in terms of information. And it was like pulling teeth to get them to respond, correctly.
We complied with everything that they have requested of us. As far as in with my son, they asked them to sign a consent release form. That way I can advocate for them and I can also help with Xavier schooling, being as though that I live here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and he lives in Philadelphia.
Right.
He did everything that was told to him. And every time that he would hand over the documentation, they always made excuse regarding anything that was put on the file. As far as in, I filled out the information for him. He signed and he dated it. They called them and said because I had crossed out my grandson's date of birth because I made a mistake. Instead of putting 2021, I put 2020. Instead of putting 2015, I put 2021. And they complained about that. Then they called my son and told them that he lied, that he didn't fill out the application. And he told them, my signature is on the documentation. I signed the documentation. It doesn't matter who filled it out. I signed it. Then they went ahead saying that they needed a verbal consent from him. We tried calling the school multiple times and they leaving messages and no one would comply in returning any of the calls. It came to the point that he had to go to work. So he left a verbal consent on the assistant principal's answering machine, and we have not yet to hear back from them. They finally called us back November 16th.
Okay. So a few days.
The principal ended up giving me a call stating that Xavier, that I would need consent from my grandson's mother. I asked the principal, why would we have to do that if we're already going through a battle with this person?
Right, and they know that they're well aware of this whole thing.
Yes, they've been keeping in touch with the police district. They even told the police district that they will not penalize my son or the mother regarding this situation until the matter gets taken care of.
Got a little bit more clarity.
And Christina, I'm sorry, there's a listener named Christina Ruiz who's watching, and she says it's sad how nowadays the system doesn't protect our children until something really bad happens. This really upsets me. And Christina, this is the reason why the grandparents, the family is coming forth with this in hopes that someone can help intervene or provide extra resources or extra connections to make sure that this that we can have the grandson back in the arms of the family that is going to love and take care of him and make sure that he's not abused. We want to make sure that he's not abused anymore. I don't want to be pessimistic. We like to keep a nice optimistic vibe here and make sure that we're doing what we can to break the generational ties of generational trauma that we've been cast upon us. And so the other side of this is making sure that if anyone is listening and you feel like there's something you can't do, send your prayers, send your love, and let somebody else know. Let somebody else know and make them aware of what's going on. Because I can guarantee y'all aren't the only people going through this situation.
I'm sure there's that's what I ended up reaching out because November 18th we went to court, which the judge looked like he was going to favor my son, but then to only turn around and tell his mother that he's going to give her one more chance that if this child comes back with one more bruise, then we're entitled to full custody. But what happens if this child doesn't have one more chance? This is our fear. I went to the news. I spoke to the news. I informed them of everything. I even sat out that same day, November 18th. I went live on Facebook and Instagram and shared my story with everybody. Shared my story, because how do the judge sit there and give back the child that was being abused by her and the boyfriend?
Mhm.
How do they do that? And it's just like I said, if God forbid somebody goes out there and hurt an animal or a dog or a cat, they're quick to put someone back behind bars.
That's
They
truth
will
right
be
there.
quick to put you behind bars. They're not going to sit there and say, okay, we're going to give this dog back to the abuser and tell him he's got one more time to fail this dog.
Right.
They wouldn't do that to him. So why are they doing this to a innocent 6-year-old defenseless child?
I think that they're doing that personally. And first and foremost, we're in a very difficult time in terms of 2021, as well as everything that just unraveled just last
with
year.
Rittenhouse case and George Floyd, right?
Exactly.
I think we're on the same page, because I was going to ask you a question, but just go ahead, brother.
I think that ultimately the target has always been the children. It's always been the young. And if you're paying attention to the scoreboard, even right now with this whole metaverse thing with Facebook and all that, and how they're trying to pull children further and further away from not only their own cognitive skills, but their ability to discern right from wrong and live in the real world, because everybody wants likes and everybody wants, comments and whatnot. And everybody wants to be, observed like they're, like they're a star, and it's easy to do that on social media. So right now, with everything that's being rolled out, the target has always been the children, all the way from the food to the educational system.
You're so right.
All the way to children and youth, as in terms of what we're dealing with. You understand what I'm saying? This goes beyond even this circumstance right here. This goes beyond that. You understand?
You're right.
Like,
looking
the
at the
target
bigger
has
picture, you are
always
so
been
right.
the children. And if you think that the children are in danger, you better pay attention to what's going on with this jab, with the what you call it, the COVID-19 vaccinations and all that, the mandates and the booster shots. That right there is not only designed to take out the children, but more importantly, the elders who still know what the score was before the internet took over. You understand? And the reason that they're doing that is because if you can get the elders out, if you can get, the guardians out,
knowledge,
the children don't have, the children
don't stand
have
a chance.
shot at knowing what the score was before all of this.
Now that brings me to a point here, because the system not only failed your grandson, but it failed his mother as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, she needs help.
Yes, she needs help. And she's responsible for owning up to her actions, for being a horrible mother. But
nonetheless, there's something that caused her to behave this way.
There we go.
Has yet to be resolved, and it may stem all the way from her own childhood, which I personally believe.
Yeah,
we all have traumas, but the bottom line is not everybody can stand in front of the mirror and say that they addressed and resolved all of their own personal traumas. It's less likely in this day and age because people are too concerned with wanting to be liked and appreciated and adored. And thus the what you call it, the social media platforms have laid out the perfect formula for you to be whoever you want to be. So people get on there and get lost in the cyber world and forget about the real world. But then when it turn around and tell you that, oh no, I'm a real person, I do real shit. No, you don't. And that doesn't mean just everybody that we know on a personal level. It also goes for these systems.
Yep.
Because regardless of what we're talking about, it's people behind these structures that are
the thing is,
the wheel turning. And people will be people regardless of what we're talking about. You could be talking
Most
about
of us are so blind trying to work and trying to quote unquote take care of our kids, i.e. meaning keeping them tuned into electronics because we're so on autopilot trying to work 12-hour, 18-hour shifts.
Now you get
You know what I
it.
mean? That
Yes,
we're
yes.
essentially letting the government take care and grow our kids. And that
We're
is part of the
contributing to it.
problem.
We're
And looking at the
How many
bigger
times
picture.
you go? We're contributing to it. How many times you
Yeah.
walk out your door and you see somebody give their child a phone or a tablet, and that's what their face is buried in, damn near half the day or longer.
But not even that,
If you
the
let
fact
them.
that there's so many things that go on and it's traumatizing. I think it gets so traumatizing that a lot of people just shut out or tune it out. But the thing is,
That's
we
the
have
fake
to
shit.
tune in.
That's why we got to stop being fake, because at the end of the day, the children are getting hurt.
Thank you. That was my point. Like, we have to make sure that we're listening and paying attention to people that are putting their word and their truth out there. And it takes a lot of guts to do it in this day and age with everything going on, and the likelihood of someone wanting to listen can be futile, but speaking out, period, makes you go against the grain. In today's day and age, a lot of people don't speak their truth. They hide behind tons of faces and masks and mirrors.
Exactly.
You know? And I really think that's something to be told about the mother of your grandson, because it seems like she's living behind some mirrors and some masks. Just analyzing this whole story and the boyfriend and just the way that you describe things and the whole energy of it, for me, I think that's the most troubling part of this, is hearing. I personally, like, I wasn't physically abused ever, but I can relate to, like, you know, a different male perspective coming into the house and then feeling shoved aside. But then on top of it, having someone abuse you, that is not abuse, period, is wrong. But someone else being in the picture, I'm just very worried about, most importantly, your grandson's mental health. And me personally, as a black man, that's something that is always at the forefront for me. How things in your childhood directly affect the person that you are in your adulthood. One thing I will say that your grandson has to be grateful for is y'all influence on him to keep him grounded into, you know, for the days where they might be hard, to remember that he has people that love him and care for him and are fighting for him. And whoever's out there listening, please take this to heart and please share.
Yes, please do. And if you are, like, being partially truthful with your children, stop that shit, man. Be straight up. Because if you teach your children reality today, they'll have that wisdom for tomorrow. But if you ain't equipping them, and whatever happens, that shit is on you. Don't blame nobody else. It's because of the way we structured him, he wasn't afraid to speak his truth.
Yes. Someone commented and said, y'all are the most kindest people, because I wouldn't be so forgiving. Blessings that the court realizes they made a huge mistake.
Absolutely.
And I really do
hope
pray
that
and
they
send
do
y'all.
the right thing.
Yes. And so y'all have a court date coming up, right?
December 8th.
Y'all hear that? December 8th. If we can, I'm joking up. If we can get a man on death row that was innocent, if we can save him from being executed just from the power of prayer and not thinking it would happen, but it happened, we can certainly make sure that these grandparents get their grandson back, and have full custody, and that his father can have him back full time, and make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I pray that in the meantime, that he's okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing this platform so that we can tell our truth.
Of course. This means a lot to me. It's great to see people living in their truth and speaking out against injustice. It's important. And my hope is that it's contagious, because the more people that wake the fuck up
Yeah.
and realize that we're in the real world and really real fucking things are happening to us every day that are affecting us
Listen,
in
let me
ways.
Mhm.
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, brother.
Let me just mention one thing, because a lot of people don't realize this shit, and it's mind-boggling to me. Okay, a lot of people do not realize that these things that are taking place, that we are all being affected by to some degree, is happening all over the world. So at the end of the day, the ones who are reaping the what you call it, the short end of the stick, is the civilians everywhere. So my question to you, whoever is within the facility, the range of my voice, do you not think this is World War III and that you are not the one that's being targeted? You better wake up. Wake the fuck up. And protect yours.
Well said. Seriously. These are some really hard times, and people need to really understand where you sit. What is going on in your own life, in your own world, in your own family, because this family is not a one-off. This is something that's going on in so many other places, and there are so many young adults with kids that are really suffering themselves, and they're inflicting that pain onto the next generation. And we gotta stop that. We have to put a stop to that shit. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
We have to put love back into the world, put love back into our hearts, and instill the knowledge back into our children.
Yes.
The government
That is really important.
The government's been lying to us since last year.
The
hospital's been lying to us since last year. I mean, should I continue to go on? So at the end of the day, do you not really believe that you are in the middle of a war and you are the one in the sights of that bullet?
Yes.
If not you, your child. Wake up. Because as you see, the systems are not failing by mistake.
Right. It's designed to be this way.
Exactly.
And might I ask everyone's races and ethnicities in this story?
My son is Puerto Rican and black. The mother is white and black.
Okay. Now, usually in this case, in this kind of scenario, I mean, the court almost always goes with what the mother's saying anyway. And I feel like that's probably a big part of this.
That is the flaw.
And then also speaking to the mother's manipulative energy, I think plays a really big part in it too. And we don't know what is said on her behalf against y'all.
Exactly. Yeah. Because the school system didn't even have my son's information at all. It said unknown. The only person that was on that documentation for emergency call was my name.
She knows who the father of her child is. Why would you allow the school to have all this other information, even your mother's information, your information, but not the father of the child that's attending the school? You tell me if that's not a deliberate move.
Mm-hmm.
This is not rocket science. As long as you're not afraid to look at it and see it for what it is, rather than what it seems or appears to be. Be truthful.
Truth.
Mm-hmm. And and to top it off, the icing of the cake. Mm-hmm. We still have our grandson, because when he was supposed to drop him off, and the poor kid started crying because he didn't want to stay with his mom, she turned around and said, "You could take him. Take him and give me my daughter." But she just got out of court crying that she wanted her children back. Takes one and leaves the other. That speaks volumes.
Sabrina Espinosa commented and said, once talking about the school situation, because once she gives his info, he can pick him up without consent at any time. So she doesn't want that. That's most likely why she kept his name off of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. That makes definitely sense. Definitely makes sense. Yeah, because like I said, in a lot of the documentation, she doesn't ever provide my son's information at all. And they have 50-50 custody, which she should be providing that information to the school.
Yep. Yep. Keep that in mind, y'all. They have 50-50 custody.
Yep. That his name should be on all of the documentations, doctor's appointments, school, anything, therapy, anything that you've been doing. My son's name should be also included in all of this information. And not once do she provide that.
This is manipulative as hell.
Yeah.
But
It is.
not. To be honest with you, it's really not. This shit is just dumb ignorance that's being entertained by other people who are just as ignorant and have no care or nothing.
No care, right? Because this is multiple different systems at play that have a hand in this and are letting it slide.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to add that, like, yeah, these are people of color that we all are talking about this, but this happens to white folk too. This happens to rich white folk with abuse. This is not just one kind of demographic here. This is everybody across America that this happens.
Because it's easier to control the young if they're wise enough, if they're smart enough to fool the elders in believing that they're doing the right thing when they're going against the grain of their own nature and doing the wrong thing. You understand what I'm saying? It's easy. It's easy for them to gain control of the young if the parents are on board with the bullshit excuse or explanation given, so that they can keep moving with the program. Yeah, and guess who is the ones who are going to encourage the children? The parent. So all they got to do is get in the minds of the parent. The parent will do the bidding for them. That's why I'm like, yo, y'all gotta wake up, man. Stop, get out this fucking bubble.
And you were right about the metaverse thing. That's just gonna make it worse. I actually did post an article the other day about how people are really alarmed how this is gonna affect our youth even more than they're already affected.
Yes.
And so you're right. We really need to make sure that we're getting engaged with our children and tuning them back in to the world we actually live in, getting them outdoors, getting them back into extracurricular activities that involve exercise. And I'm not saying that all electronics are bad. A lot of electronics are great to use your mind, but we have to get kids back into the right things like STEM. Any of that, science, technology, you know what I mean? All of that.
But you know what's being sensationalized other than that? Dumbass challenges.
Oh my goodness.
That's getting people to hurt themselves, and they might end up missing a tooth, breaking a leg, but they in front of that damn camera smiling, looking for the likes.
But you know what? A like doesn't fulfill your life. It doesn't pay your bills. I mean, well, some people it pays their bills, but it's not something that's gonna fulfill you.
But that's how drawn we've been allowing ourselves to be drawn in. And now they got this metaverse thing going on where people are gonna feel like people can interact cyberly. Now the question is, why are they sensationalizing this so much? Because they know ultimately the older folk may not necessarily be as attracted to it because we remember the score. Yeah. Whereas the young who are being born into this age, and the first thing that gets shoved in their face is a screen with blue light, which is already bad for you psychologically.
And right, because that's a whole nother topic right there. But think about this, because if you got a whole generation that's already mentally susceptible to dealing with all kinds of traumas brought on them by the previous generation, i.e. my generation, I'm a millennial, and I'll face it, I don't currently have kids, but I've witnessed a lot of things in my years. I'm 30, I'm about to be 33. And so I've seen these two different generations, you know what I mean? And I really feel like it's
it's a setup.
We are regressing, and it's deliberately it's being designed that way, and the system is designed to fail us, specifically these systems that are failing your grandson. I feel like this is not anything that's brand new, right? And there's been a lot of horrible abuse, before these kind of systems were set up. but these systems were intentionally designed to help, or so they said. But as time goes along and you're not keeping up with how times change and the nature of things, and we're in 2021, there's a lot of different things in our society today that weren't here in the 60s and 70s and 80s, right? We need either major overhauls in this country, or just start from scratch, like something has to be done, because
there's a lot of crooked people in high places. And
yes,
some of these crooked people, I know this might be slightly off the topic, and a lot of people are afraid to go ahead and enter this realm of thought. But a lot of these people, these crooked people who are at certain positions, they don't necessarily believe in a God, and you don't want to know what it is that they do believe in.
Right. They don't believe in compassion. I will say that.
Exactly.
I'll leave it at that.
Right. The thing is, I don't want to get y'all too riled up. I know y'all spoke to me about, Christina, see, we all on the same page, and we really don't realize it because we don't communicate enough. We're too busy in our own phones. And this is the point of having the Leon Block, is to bring us all together and realize we on the same page, and we got to fight for the justice and the freedom that we know we deserve. Not just that we want, but that we deserve. Y'all grandson deserves to have this justice. And again, I want to remind people, we are streaming to 3 different platforms. You can also listen to us on Wave Crave Radio Live every night. And so this is worldwide. Please make sure that if you're listening and there's anything you can do within your power and your energy to lend some power and energy to this situation and help in any way that you can, it would be greatly, greatly appreciated.
Yes, it would. Thank you so much for saying that.
Yes.
Without a doubt, y'all. I'ma get ready to wrap this up, but if there's anything y'all want to close out with, feel free to let people know.
We just need to start standing up for our children, because if we don't, who will? The system is failing these kids. Every day we hear about a kid dying, about abuse by the mother, by the father, by the uncle, by I could go on. The list can go on. It's time for us to stand up for our children, for the kids of tomorrow.
They hold the baton that embodies your legacy. And if you fail them, then you don't equip them to carry on that legacy. So you better start taking your life and your legacy of your family seriously. But more importantly, beyond all of that, take your child seriously.
I couldn't agree with y'all more. I really just want to wish y'all good luck on everything. And please keep in touch with me. I'm gonna do the excuse me, the outro, but just stay on with me, and we'll talk a little more afterwards. Okay. Everyone, please make sure that you are liking, subscribing to the Leon Block on all social media platforms. Make sure you're following, liking, and subscribing to Wave Crave Radio. Remember, it's the hottest urban wave in the 717, playing the best hip-hop, R&B, soul, gospel with interviews and current waves. You can catch live anytime on all streaming services, and you can listen to the Leon Block on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, streaming every night. But I just want y'all to walk away with some love, understanding, and compassion. This story is a heavy topic, but it's something that everyone's dealing with in some way in their own life or in another family's life, and somewhere in your vicinity, in your environment, somebody's dealing with something so similar. So I want you to just keep in mind that we need to lend an open ear more often. All right. So thank you for tuning in to the Leon Block, y'all. Make sure you meditate on your path, celebrate your being, liberate your spirit, and educate yourself. I'm John Tell. Arm yourself with knowledge and have a blessed journey.
block, block.